Please introduce viewers, if you would, to Danny Zeminski, the star of Beautiful Music, which was an Oprah Top Book of the Summer pick, by the way. Did his name come to you as quickly as the rest of his details?
I have characters in my books where their names are subtly, referencing something or an aspect of their personality. And sometimes their names are just names, and I wanted Danny to be, just sound sort of super normal. Later I realized it's like his last name is Zemski, and then and we'll talk about that too. And it occurred to me, it's like, oh, you basically gave him a name like yours, Michael. Zadoorian, Zemski. The Y is silent. But and that's one of those things. When I write a book, I'm not always cognizant of the things I do. And I mean, for me, I'll just try and get a first draft out, and then later I try to figure out what the hell I was doing when I wrote it. But it's really important for me to just forge ahead and to try and get to and try to get to an ending. What I often tell people about Beautiful Music is that even though there are a lot of things that I stole directly from my own life, the neighborhood Danny grows up in, the high school he went to, even the house he grows up in, and I mean, but that's sort of where it ends. My childhood was nothing like Danny's. I was way luckier than Danny, but I also think that sometimes a writer will put themselves in, okay, what could have happened to me have had a few things not gone my way. And I feel like for Danny, that is definitely the case. I mean, my mother was not like Danny's mother, she's kind of, she's very depressive. She's alcoholic. She abuses drugs and such. And, and there's a lot of turmoil in his life, his home life, that he winds up, but once he discovers music, that kind of turns everything around and gives him a purpose, gives him solace, gives him like a kind of oasis, really, to find strength, and it gives him a purpose too. And but Danny's mom, I think that came out of something that I realized, um, when I was in my 30s, I started to realize that a lot of my friends, I'm still acquainted with a lot of people I knew when I was pretty young, and I realized how many of my friends had mothers who I believe were like deeply depressed,
Hmm.
and I think there was a lot of that going on with, I think, uh, you know, I think housewives of the 50s, 60s, 70s, where, and it was starting to change maybe around the 70s, where, I think there was just all these women who were like, constantly being told, you have a husband with a job and a beautiful family. You must be so happy. And it's like, actually, I'm not, but the world makes you feel like you should be happy. What's wrong with me? And so I was really interested in that, and talking to my friends about their, kind of these moms who, like, sort of their child, these people's childhood was a lot of, mom's not getting out of bed today. So you're on your own. And so I kind of, it was important to me to have Danny sort of, I think to have her be one of those women to just sort of, I hope that I kind of told her side of it too. And and that was one of the things, where one of those, getting back to an agent, I think I'm on my fifth or sixth agent at this point. But I had an agent for that book, and one of the best things she said, she was, I think you need to explore the mom more. And she was right, and I'm thankful to her for that. But so it was interesting. But you're right, sometimes it is freeing to have, to be writing something that's not directly related to your experience. And for me, that was Danny's mom.
That sounds like another great piece of advice for any young authors watching, that you really have to stick with it.
I think it is. I mean, everyone's going to have their own way of doing things, and Um, but in my way is to just keep writing, and no matter what, no matter how shitty it feels and it sounds in your head, or how bad it looks on the page, um, I'm a big component of just continuing to write, just because I think it's a real trap you can, fall into, and I think that's maybe one of those things that young writers or inexperienced writers will fall into. They'll finally sit down to write that first chapter. They'll write that first chapter, and then instead of writing the second chapter, they'll hone and polish that first chapter over and over and over again till it's the most perfect useless first chapter ever, you know. Whereas if you write the second chapter, even if it sucks, and then the third chapter also sucking, and fourth, fifth, sixth, until you get to the horrible ending, um, okay, now you start to hone. Now you say, and for me, I mean, that whole process is it's just figuring out what the hell I was writing about, what I meant, what I wanted to say, and that sounds like incongruous or whatever, but for me, I wind up making connections during the second, third, fourth draft. I start to really understand what the book is about and what I want it to be about, and and I take notes through the whole process, and I mean I'm always just sort of figuring out or asking myself questions, So all my notes are just like, what if, what if, what if, and that's just what works for me. But yeah, sticking with it, I think is really important. And that if I have any, yeah, advice for anybody, that's almost always it. Just keep writing and get to the end.